Thank you.
You are very welcome. And, you probably, I don't know about you, you talk about this stuff all the time.
I do.
My palms are sweating.
Wipe them off.
Okay, all right. I am wiping them now.
Yes, wipe them down.
What is that about?
The nervousness that you experience?
Yes, why are my palms sweating?
Well, it's probably because of the reason a lot of people get nervous when we start talking about sex. It's probably because of the reason why a lot of people come sit on the green couch in my office, or they call me and email me and they talk about some of the issues they have with sex. It's very unsettling, and sex, unfortunately, is still very seen, but it's still very taboo to talk about. So depending on your upbringing, depending on the messages you receive about sex, or you've received about sex growing up, and also the messages you currently tell yourself, it can be a little unsettling and make you a little bashful. Just a little bit.
Well, it's funny because the irony is my husband edits my podcast, and I know that this is probably going to be one of his favorite. Good, yes. Now, in your work, do you work more with women as opposed to men?
So that's a great question. I work with a lot of different people, being as though this is a highly specialized area, and being here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in the Bible Belt, I see a lot of different people. I will say that the majority of the people I do see are women, but I do see a surprisingly amount of men in my practice. Of course, they likely come in as a couple, but I do see a lot of men individually, and I am really, really proud of the fact that a lot of men trust me, especially Black men. They really come in and they trust me with the issues that they have going on. So I see about 20% men, 80% women.
Wow, that is awesome. And I think that is still a high number.
That is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so are men still having these feelings about sex, or is it just us women?
Everybody has issues with sex because it's something that our sexuality is something that we're born with, and it's with us until we die.
Okay.
So men have issues, women have issues, people of other genders have issues. So we all have issues as it relates to sexuality. We have questions. There's lots of misinformation out there. So people come in bashful, sweaty palms, but they come in ready to see something different, ready to do something different. Also ready to be normalized. A lot of people are pleasantly surprised that a lot of the things that they think are issues or dysfunctions are regular and normal occurrences that happen to people with bodies.
With bodies.
Yes.
I heard a statistic one time, and I'd like you to weigh in on this. Is it true that we both lie about sex, and that men are more likely to inflate the numbers and women are likely to decrease the numbers?
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you asked me that question too, especially since we're having this conversation. In my experience, and of course the research also says that, men are more likely to inflate the number of people they have sex, and that is due to how we view sexuality here, right? So for women, sex is something that we aren't supposed to have a lot of. We're not supposed to really enjoy it as women, and so we get kind of bad name if we have sex with two people in our lives. However, if for men, it's their rite of passage. It's a rite of passage for men to be able to conquer as many women sexually as they can. And so because of this, and because of course, the patriarchy, it's important for men to be seen as a manly man when he is able to say, I've had sex with all of these people, even if it's not true.
And on the flip side, we can't tell if we've had more than two. Because
it's way more taboo for us. Like, there's this joke that, women are expected to be sexually experienced virgins.
Yes, I get it. Yes. It makes a lot of sense. Gosh, where does that come from?
So historically, the way we view sexuality, the way we view sex for women is that women, sexuality and having sex, being engaged in sex was historically not for women's pleasure. And that's a huge problem, and that's something that we are not claiming in 2020 and beyond. No, we're not doing that. We stopped doing that a while ago, but we're especially not doing that now. But historically, sex was something that was done to women, and it was something for men to get from women. So it was done to us, right? And so we weren't supposed to be enjoying it. It was for the male to get pleasure from, and not for us.
That's true. That is so true. But some men didn't get the memo.
What do you mean by that?
Well, because a lot of, I have actually the example at the end of the show that I was going to go into, but sometimes I think men still think that they are giving us sex, and that it's not a reciprocal relationship.
Yes.
I he's got this a lot.
Yes, they think they're giving us. So that's a whole other thing, right? So conquering sex and having sex done to us is another thing. But also, if I'm understanding you correctly, is like men think that they are doing women a favor, like they're providing us with something that we can't get, or that is so super so super great that we should take it in any way that they give it to us. And that is a huge problem, especially as it relates to the sexual pleasure of women, because that means that you are not in tune with women's pleasure, especially sexual pleasure. And we know that historically women's sexual pleasure has not been something that has been valued. And so when we take that notion of sex is something that men are giving us, we are allowing ourselves to succumb to that notion that sex isn't supposed to be something pleasurable. It's not something that we are supposed to speak up on and know our bodies and know what to ask for and demand our pleasure. And guess what, Dr. O?
What's up?
We are the ones.
I'm trying to follow you, but yeah.
Dr. O, we are the ones with the clitoris.
Yes, we are.
We are the ones. And so if you know anything about the function of the clitoris, it's only for pleasure. Like the clitoris is, way more studied now, and we now know that the clitoris isn't just what we see when we look at our labia, between our labia. We know that the clitoris it actually extends 4 inches inside of our bodies, and so we
I did not know that.
Yeah, we have the inner clitoris and we have the outer clitoris, the part that you can see, right? So we are the only ones that have this clitoris, this pleasure button. But we are the ones whose pleasure is usually ignored or not valued. Nobody else has this except women or people with labias and vulvas.
That is lovely. I love it. And I mean, it makes sense. I'm getting shot now, but I'm gonna go there because we got to talk about this.
I got you.
But when you put pressure on the clitoris, it is like a button.
Yeah.
I'm just getting it like that and that's why it feels that way. Now let me ask you this. Where was I going to go with that thought? Basically, sex is something that we have traditionally made ourselves feel is for men. We feed that narrative by, would you say, society and certain messages that boys and girls. Now, where does our history come into all of this?
Our sexual history?
You talked about women's bodies being something that we haven't had a lot of control over. So would you say like the history, maybe the institution of slavery, things like that?
Absolutely. So even if we go back as far as what we know about slavery, right, and what was happening to Black women's bodies during slavery as we were taught, and how Black women's bodies were even then used for consumption of the white slave masters, owners, and overseers, how they were raped, how they became pregnant for these slave owners, and how they even breastfed babies that weren't theirs. Yes. So our bodies historically have always been for consumption of a man, right? And so this whole patriarchal society and construct is what keeps us stuck there allowing us to be seen as something again to be conquered. So that's why I say we're not doing that in 2020. We are not allowing somebody to use our bodies for their own consumption. If we are going to lie down and if we are going to engage with someone sexually, we are going to get something out of it as well. Okay.
You're claiming it for all of us.
I'm claiming it for everybody who wants it.
Yeah.